Hello everybody and welcome to the patch notes rundown for October 24th of 2024. This has been after a full week rotation of the ranked split has been out with a few rank changes, mainly on the time frames being available, where it went from having windows of 3 hours a day for every for 4 sections to being a consistent Monday through Friday, 6 p.m. to midnight, at least for my time. And then more time like 1 p.m. to midnight on Saturday, Sunday. But let's get into the changes. So the first change here we have is 6 new heroes added to Hero Labs, which is a new experimental hero matchmaking mode. The heroes are going to be called Holiday, Calico, Wrecker, Phantom, Viper, and Magician. The goal is to have players give feedback based on the hero design. That way we can have a bit more influence on what's going to be, if something's really, really OP, hope it's going to get, changed where it's not super broken. Thinking of Shiv for the most part, because I know that's been a hot topic in the community for a while. So hopefully this will allow the development team to get a better idea of what they're doing in terms of champion releases, and we can maybe get a good idea of how many champions or heroes we should expect, at least early on in stages of Deadlock. Now we got commands where we can honor players during the game. I wonder if you'll also be able to honor enemies or not, just in case, because I know sometimes an enemy is doing super well, or super far behind, and yet they manage to come back and carry the game for their team. So that'll be a nice little honor system. I wonder if they'll have rewards based on that come in the future. Who knows? And then we got character shaders to improve visibility. So just overall making it in a dark corner you can see more. They updated the environment and lighting in the sky. Added kill streak music cues. Okay, that'll be interesting. Added keybinds for fly up and fly down. I thought we already had that with it being shift and control. I thought it was. But I don't really play fly characters, so who knows? Fix being able to unable to report mute disconnected players. Okay, that'll be nice, because there's been a lot of DCs, especially in casual. I haven't really encountered much in ranked, but last night I was literally playing. We had 3 DCs in 4 games. It's really annoying. You can now drag and drop build categories to move them around. I wonder if that'll help with people that are experimenting their own build categories, or if it's just the preset builds that you can go find in the shop. Added a quick selection for favorite builds. Click on the name of the current active build in the shop. Bring up a drop down that lets you switch. So if you have multiple builds for let's say Bebop, which has a bomb, for the most part has bomb based builds, gun builds, ult builds. Instead of going to favorite tab, it's just a drop down. That'll be a little bit nicer to navigate. And then we got added indication of game mode within match history. Okay, so whether it's ranked or unranked, that'll be a nice differentiation for when looking at people's histories. Added rank badge to matches on the watch page. Added rank history tab to profile, currently only visible to self. Flash windows taskbar. Cat, can you stop, dude? Fixed issues in sub languages. Okay, that's just a lot of bug fixes at this point. Let me see, let's do a quick skim through here. Ooh, proc sounds for healing gray, mixed shot, so that should be a bit more satisfying when used. Ooh, Shiv's Killing Breath now stops tracking targets that teleport, which means there's a bit more counterplay to it. That'll be nice. Alright, now just getting to the actual gameplay elements. Ability AP is no longer granted for walkers. I'm assuming that's ability power, but this is a different game. Shrine Patron no longer have soul AP bounties. Oh, ability point, that's what it is. Shrine Flex move to all shrines. Okay, so you have to kill all shrines to get the last flex slot, which will be a little bit less of a not scaling, but like a comeback mechanic is like getting one shrine early on, or I guess a snowball effect. Trooper Soul Orbs now have a 90 millisecond buffer to allow the server to do better calculations on who shot first, and minimize latency of the energy for denying. So better chance at denying now with the server buffer. Trooper Soul changed from 50-50 in the kill orb to 60-40. So my take on this is that the initial kill gives 60% and the deny or confirm gives 40% of the initial value. So it's less punishing if you get denied early on compared to, just getting the kill. Breakable spawn time increased by 1 minute, so less buffs spawning around the map technically. Breakable souls reduced from 35 to 30 and increased by 0.5 per minute. So the scaling was overall nerfed on the souls that drop from the boxes, the urns, and the crates. Earned combat properties now require an 8% net worth lead to kick in. Okay. So if you get a team fight while down by, let's say 10%, it'll still be worth it in terms of getting back into the game, but otherwise it's just base value. So let's see, earned pickup locations are the same as before. However, now the drop-off locations will vary depending on which team is leading. If there isn't a lead over the bounty's worth, then the drop-off location is the same. If there is, the drop-off location will be closer to the losing team. Okay, so the earn they're making the earn an actual comeback mechanic, where if you pick it up, you can actually go back through your base and have an easier drop-off location. Okay, that'll be a quite nice change for teams that get super hard behind, even though I don't know how it is in more like higher elo matchups, but falling behind so far doesn't feel too bad. If the urn hasn't been delivered with 9 seconds of pickup, it now drains your health for 1% of max HP, so no stalling to hold the urn. Whenever the urn is dropped after 90 seconds of pickup time, it starts moving back. Cannot be picked up by the same team for 12 seconds. Okay, so if you drop it and it starts moving back, you can't pick it up, assuming. But it has to be after that 90-second timer. Okay. Guardian attack range requirements change from 20 meters to require you to be above the ramp. Okay, so they're overall adjusting the Guardian attack range, where instead of just being in that approximate distance, if you're on the ramp, it's just its own base now, which would be quite nice. I know when that change happened 2 weeks ago, there was a very noticeable difference in where you could safely hit the Guardian at, even though the point was, have the entirety of the ramp be able to damage the Guardian, but now you have to go even closer, which allows a lot more trading windows for the defending team. Guardian resist versus troopers changed from starting at 70% and ending at 30 at 10 minutes, starting at 60 and ending at 35. So it's going to be more resistant to minion waves later on, but in the early game, pushing in a minion wave still, it will do more damage overall. Guardians now have resist versus players, starting at 4%, ending at negative 35%. So it'll take more damage later on, my bad. Misread that. Ending at negative 35% at 8 minutes. So Guardians, it's just sort of a prevention of early game snowballing on Guardians. Because they tried to change the 5-minute Guardian takes last patch, but it didn't do too well. So this is their new adjustment on it. It'll be a little bit more tanky to, just against the player. Walkers now have resist versus troopers, starting at 60%. Okay, so the walkers get resistances to where pre-14 minutes, they'll be a bit more tanky. I think I think this looks like maybe around the 12-minute mark is when it'll be base value of resistances. So troopers now gain spirit resist gradually over 25 minutes. So basically spirit builds can't clear as fast as the game goes on as they normally would have been able to, but I don't think it'll really have an issue unless the main focus is using abilities when you're gun build to clear and just not having it as effective. Backdoor detection range for troopers increased. Harder to kill troopers approaching the objectives with long range spells to stall, making the game think you're backdooring when you aren't. Backdoor protection removal now has a 20-second buffer, so it doesn't go into protection immediately once creeps die. Okay, so this change I actually do like, because there is plenty of times where the minion wave just dies because enemy comes and clears after you get a fat weapon, and you're trying to kill the, let's say, the walker, which was at 25% HP, and you know you could easily kill it within 10 seconds if the wave wasn't insta-killed. So this will allow a better feeling for pushing in a wave to get a tower. It'll be more rewarding than just pushing the wave, go steal their camps. Mid-boss respawn timer decreases with subsequent boss kills. So as you kill the boss more, it'll spawn faster. Simple. 70-second respawn time now happens at 30 minutes instead of 35. So the longer the game... So it's more punishing earlier to die now instead of 35 minutes being 70 is now 30. There is now a respawn curve that goes from 70 to 75 seconds over 30 to 40 minutes. So a 5-second increase over the 10 minutes from 30 to 40 minutes. Which, I mean, can change team fight, but with the respawn time going to 70 at 30 minutes is already quite a decent overhaul of, hey, we lost a team fight, we're fucked, game over. Base Guardians and Shrine no longer have out of combat regen. Alright, so in this case, I think that means only the patron heals, which will be a nice little change for getting a push, you know, getting some damage on the base. Now that it's changed, you know, sustainable damage is sustainable damage, or sustained damage. Parry active window now increased by 0.05 seconds. Parry cooldown reduced from 5 to 4.5. So this is a buff parry, even if it's like barely noticeable longer. Probably to help, I don't know the cast time of heavy melee, but this might counteract it. And then the parry cooldown being 0.5 means, you know, more parries more soon. So melee builds get a little bit nerfed in that regard if you know how to parry. Medical Trooper heals now has 2 charges to cast between 6 seconds as a consumer charge when healing other troops. So it seems like when it's just you're using the medic to heal, there's a cooldown on it because I think it's a burst heal. So when you sacrifice now shares souls of subsequent hit with everyone that hit it right recently. Okay. So if you have a group on the center sacrifice, it's now shared more evenly. Redesign stairs, a map design. Then we have more map design changes. This one seems to be on the side lanes, and then the walker on the side lanes. Just trying to see what was actually changed. Oh, sky bridge between this little minion camp here. Okay, I see. Now we have weapon item nerfs. Restorative shot, weapon cooldown reduced by 1%, and the cooldown increased by 0.5 seconds. Guessing this is an overall nerf to prevent sustaining in lane just based off restorative shot alone. Rapid rounds fire rates increased by 1%. Monster rounds resist versus NPCs reduced, so they'll take more damage from the minion wave. High velocity mag, bullet velocity reduced by 5%. Bullet shield health increased, so an overall increase in terms of the tankiness of the item and damage. Melee charge, that a nerf to its damage and health reduced and health. Long range no longer grants ammo and has less reload time. Active reload no longer grants less reload time, but now grants more ammo. So that'll be a nice little bonus, because the active reload getting less reload time never really made sense, because the whole point was the active granting you an instantaneous reload, and now just having more ammo will be a nice fill. And they basically switched out with long range. Mystic Shot proc cannot be missed due to evasion. So for like when Haze ulti, because if he has evasion, you can now Mystic Shot proc off of that onto Haze. and the cooldown is increased by 0.5 seconds. Burst Fire now grants slow resistance. Sharpshooter no longer gives extra ammo but gives more reload speed. Tesla Bullets cooldown can now be reduced by CDR. Titanic Magazine now gives spear resistance, so just a smaller benefit to AP cast ability casters instead of bullets. So, and now grants melee damage resistance. Okay, that'll be quite a nice pickup now. Definitely, I think if it needed a buff, this definitely helps. Lucky Shock procs now pierce evasion, and Vampiric Burst health has been increased. Then we have the tankier items. Extra regen no longer grants health. That's fine. A lot of people just buy the extra regen for the sustaining lane, not really for the health, so that doesn't change the item too much. Extra stamina bonus health increased by 10, and extra health now upgrades into fortitude. Extra health getting an upgrade is quite beneficial just because instead of just having it sit there do nothing later on and selling it, it now means something. Enduring speed has its slow resistance reduced. Reactive barrier has its ammo increased. Majestic Leap's cooldown has been increased by 20 seconds, so this nerfs Lash. Bebop if you're using it for mobility purposes. Overall, a decent nerf to Majestic Leap. Is getting built quite a bit for mobility purposes, even though it has the mechanic where we get shot, goes on a 5-second cooldown. Getting shot in the air disables the drop down ability. I don't think I've ever really used the Majestic Leap's drop down, so not sure how big of a nerf that is. Rescue Beam pull speed reduced by 20% and the sprint reduced from 2 to 1. Fortitude now upgrades from extra health, which was the nice change where it also gets more health and the restored delay is down by a second while having a little bit more damage. Superior Stamina's Spirit power increased by 4, so it's a little bit more, just a little bit more damage is nice. And then let's see, we have the 6200 items here with Soul Rebirth, no longer grants CDR, but its cooldown is increased. So overall nerf for the revive mechanic. Cooldown's is more streamlined for 4 minutes instead of just 212. Siphon Bullets max HP stolen per bullet increased by 5. Leech now gives cooldown reduction but doesn't gives spear power. Phantom Strike no longer grants bullet resistance but instead grants spear resistance. Unstoppable gives bullet instead of spirit resistance, and no longer grants move speed. Colossus slow reduced by 5% and the radius reduced by 2 meters. Colossus was overall nerfed, while the other ones just got slight adjustments. Spirit items. Mystic Reach ability range reduced by 3% and bullet resist increased by 1%. So this will help out with the early game frustrations against Mystic Reach where, like let's say for Melon with the 2 ability, where it's now a little more calculated on how it's going to hit. Like it's not going to be as frustrating for grenades as well. Slowing Hex reduced by 5%, so the main mechanic of Slowing Hex is getting nerfed. Nerf, improved cooldown, buffed, Weathering Grip, buffed, at least on the projectile speed. Cold Front, that does double damage to NPC units, so better on clearing. Duration Extender, ability duration reduced, and now grants weapon damage. So, an adjustment, more or less, because giving weapon damage will be quite nice. Bullet Resistance Shredder no longer grants bullet resistance but grants melee damage resistance. Searcher Power, when the passive proxy no longer gets slowed when shooting. Move speed reduced from 3 to 2. A little bit slower movement on the Searcher Power. Improved reach, non-imbued ability range by 1, and so a buff to improved reach. Nerf to Mystic Slow. Well, an adjustment. We have improved burst getting a buff. Superior cooldown. Spirit shields getting buffed. Spirit durations buffed overall. Ethereal Shift, which is the Zonias, where the stop taking damage for like 2.5 seconds. Not only gives spirit power loads, so that's quite a significant nerf. Active now grants move speed for 5 seconds after returning, so get away with more tanky stats and move speed. Improved Spirit now gives more spirit. Then we have the bigger scaling items. Boundless Spirit, spirit power increased, weapon power increased, escalating exposure, spirit amp reduced, so nerf. Mystic Reverb, slow not only affects the primary target instead of people around it, and the spirit lifesteal, or the secondary stats on it were nerfed. Then we have the champion changes, the hero changes. Abrams, melee attack reduced. So, I think that's a buff to his attack rate on his melee. His gun fall-off damage starts at 20 minutes, so nerf on his range. Abrams, show chart would do spellcast. So bug fixes for Abrams on top of gun nerfs and melee buff. Bebop, bullet damage growth was buffed on the bullet damage. No longer gains resistances, or at least bullet resistance, that gains spirit resist. Sticky Bomb now loses 2% of his attacks on death, rounds up. I thought we already lost stacks, but that was supposed to come in the last batch. The hook now returns troopers 75% faster than normal, so faster grab on when you hit a minion. Grey Talons base regen was increased, gun spirit scaling was increased, and movement speed now scales. So overall buff for Grey Talon. I don't think it was a single nerf. Infernus's Afterburn was nerfed. And Ivy was buffed. Ivy was nerfed because the bullet damage growth outdoes the base bullet damage buff. Kelvin's Arctic Beams nerfed again. The grenade tier 2. Yeah, so Kelvin got nerfed once again. He's been getting a lot of nerfs, I guess, lately. Lady Geist, Malice, which I believe is her E. It's nerfed overall because of the slow. Debuff duration is less. The damage amplification is less, so overall Lady Geist was nerfed. McGinnis has quite a few changes. The gun spin decay very improved. So I think this means that it takes less time for the cooldown on the bullet speed with the minigun. The turrets cooldown reduced, so buff on the turret. Yeah, buff on turrets. Spectral walls slow reduced by 5%. So the walls nerfed a little bit, and the heavy barrage got a range increase, a cooldown increase. So the ult got nerfed a little bit, but the range was buffed. Mirage, Fire Scarabs tier 3, max health steal increased by 10. The Gin Marks tier 3 cooldown between multipliers and improved from -0.5 to 0.75. Then his ulti's fire rate increased by 10%. Tier 2 cooldown decreases 10% more, or 10 seconds more. And the tier 3 now grants unstoppable on arrival. So overall buff to Mirage's ulti. Moan Krill now has 20% headshot crit reduction. And the bullet and spirit resist now persist while spinning out of the burrow. So overall buff to Moan Krill, because depending on what build you're using. Because for me, I like to use the spirit build, so this will be an overall buff because I don't really rely on the guns. And just having more resistances when spinning out, especially if you're putting all that spirit onto your second ability, this will help out quite a bit. Paradox. Pulses grenade. Pulses are now expressed as a duration rather than a fixed pulse count. Tier 1 decreases the duration. Tier 2 was buffed just a little bit as well. And then the kinetic carbine was overall buffed because it can't miss now. If you hit the target, that is. Priestess breakables so you can't hide behind the crates anymore. Skill expressive with the headshots. Okay. 7's lightning ball cooldown increase, so 7's lightning ball's getting nerfed a little bit here, so that's good. Off the radius nerf will be quite decent, because I know in the last patch it could be quite huge. So overall, 7 got nerfed. The expansion time on the ulti reduced. So I think his ult got buffed in this regard. Alright, Shiv. Base speed nerf. Serrated knives collision radius reduced, so has to be a bit more accurate. Bloodletting cooldown increased. So I'm guessing that's when you proc. I think that's 3 if I recall. So you can't activate it as much to cancel out that DOT effect or that ignore pain effect. And then we have his ulti, killing per range, decrease on the range. That's good. 7 meters decrease. So he needs a bit closer to dash. The rage buildup was decreased, and the rage buffer duration was decreased by a second. And the buildup versus creeps was reduced by 50%, so it can't build up rage as easily once he hits his ulti. Vindicta's gun cycle. So better feeling on Vindicta's gun. Better bullet growth for time per boon increase. Overall buff to her gun. Fire rate now scales with ability power or spirit power. Assassinate no longer splits to allies, so all those souls go directly to you. Flight duration increased from 8 seconds to 12 seconds, so she can fly a little bit longer. Then assassination bullet radius increased from 3 to 4. And the scope is now automatically cancelled when Paradox. So Paradox ulti now cancels the scope, and the zoom level can now be cycled with right click. So that way you can have better accuracy at longer range, or a better time of holding angles, I guess. Viscous bullet damage reduced. So Viscous early games that nerfed a little bit. Bullet damage growth is increased though, so it'll come back to a minimum scaling. The cube form, tier 2 was upgraded, was moved to tier 3, but tier 2 now gives a health regen, or more health regen. The splatter, which I believe is, I think this is 1, or yeah, is 1, reduced from 60 damage to 50 at tier 2, and the ulti resistance was decreased by 10% on the spare resist. Warden's flask, slow duration was reduced by 30 seconds. And the weapon damage duration increased by 1 second. The Binding World escape time reduced from 2 to 8, reduced by 0.1 second. So a little bit less time to escape that hook. And the escape range was increased, so it's a little bit further you have to go to escape before getting CC locked. Warden's ulti now also grants you unstoppable during the shoot when it is maxed out for 2 seconds. For the 2 second duration. Wraith card trick got nerfed. Yeah, overall nerfed because of the cooldown. Cooldown doesn't really affect unless you're doing a lot of damage and you have some stacked up cards. Just the overall nerf on the damage will help in the early game for some people that are facing Wraith. The telekinesis cooldown, which I believe, I'm trying to remember which ability this is. I think it's her teleport, maybe. That's her ulti, I think. Yamato cast ability with Flying Strike. Yamato just had a lot of bug fixes, and then her ulti got some changes. Alright, well that's it for the October 24th. Definitely had a better understanding of what champions did what now that I've played the game a bit more and played every single champion. But I'll be looking forward to bringing you another set in 2 weeks. Enjoy!